Okay, we will make a start. So for those of you who missed that, we are going to be recording the session and we'll have plenty of time at the end for questions as well. Brilliant to see so many people on the webinar today. Good morning to some of you who are stateside. Good afternoon to everyone else. Today, we're going to be talking about planning ahead, mentoring in 2022. I can't believe we're only just over 2 months away from the end of the year. I don't know where the year has gone, but there is lots that we've learned this year, both in general, but also in mentoring that we're going to be talking about today. So today's agenda, we've got an hour together. I don't envisage it taking an hour. So depending on how many questions there are, and we're going to buy some time back for you all at the end. The first thing we're going to do is I'm going to do a very quick introduction. I can see from the people who are on this that I've had the pleasure of working with quite a lot of you already, so I really will keep the introduction brief. We're then going to talk about mentoring in 2021, both the good and the bad. So the things that we have seen both on our open network, where we've got just over 60,000 mentors and mentees, and some of the trends and things we've seen there, but also from the things that we've been learning alongside our clients and the programs that they have been running all over the world with lots of different objectives. So we're going to be talking about some of those things that we've seen so far this year. We're then going to talk about mentoring in 2022, and we're going to highlight some predicted challenges that we think may well come up. Some of them are already happening. Some of them are predicted for later this year and early next year. One of those is the Great Resignation, which those of you in HR and learning and development may well have heard of. Whether that comes to fruition or not, who knows? But we're going to talk about how mentoring plays into things like that and how you can really combat things like that. We'll then talk about launching programs, depending on whether you use the English or American English spelling of that. That's always fun for our copywriters when they're trying to work out how they should spell that in their articles. So we'll be talking about launching programs, whether it's the first time you've launched the first ever program that you're running within an organization, or you're launching a new program as part of an organization where mentoring is already firmly embedded, or maybe relaunching an old program that you want to sort of reinvigorate or reignite. We're going to talk about some of the key things, some key tips and tricks around that. Then we're going to be talking about igniting engagement and re-engagement. As a lot of you will know, PushFar's platform goes a long way to ensuring there is engagement, but it does require some additional work, and there are some things that you can do to really make sure that that happens and make sure you're getting the results you need from your mentoring programs. And it's just reminding people that mentoring programs are there and available for your employees, your students, whoever you're targeting and whoever your participants are. There's that commonly quoted stat about needing to see something 7 times, needing to see a brand seven times in terms of marketing before it sinks in. Mentoring or anything else is not that different. So reminding your staff that it's there is really important. We're then going to touch on some of the new features of the platform over the last 6 months. We're continually rolling out new updates and new features, but we're going to highlight just 5 or 6 of them and the reasons as to why we've added those in as well and how you can use them. And then we're going to finish up with a Q&A, so the opportunity for you to ask any questions that you might have on the things we're going through or mentoring more generally. And for those of you just joined, as I say, I will be sending out the slides later, so you will have a copy of that. So a very quick introduction from me. I'm Ed. I'm the co-founder and CEO of PushFar. I come at mentoring, as some of you will already have heard of. I come at mentoring from a personal background. I was looking for a mentor myself a few years ago and realized there were a whole number of challenges, not only with finding a mentor, but also running mentoring programs too. I'm now fortunate enough to mentor a number of people through our open network, but also be mentored. So it's not just preaching, it's practice what you preach in terms of mentoring. As far as I'm concerned, I am lucky enough to be involved in mentoring meetings pretty much on a pretty much weekly basis, and using the platform for that as well, which allows me to really understand what's going on and how the platform can be further adapted. In terms of the platform itself, I know that some of you are already using the platform. Very simply put, one sentence, we streamline mentoring. We do that both for individuals and program managers at PushFar. So helping individuals to find the right mentor or mentee, but also manage their mentoring relationships. So setting their goals, scheduling their meetings, keeping notes, and networking with other people who are part of those same programs. And at the same time, helping administrators reduce the number of Excel spreadsheets flying around and save them time when it comes to both matching and reporting as well. So that's a very quick introduction. The other thing I always like to do is just recap the definition that we're going to use for mentoring. There are lots of different understandings of what mentoring is. The one that's easiest to understand is mentoring is when someone shares their knowledge, skills, and/or experience to help another to develop and grow. Very straightforward. You'll notice here that this doesn't mention age or seniority within a business. We're of the belief that anyone with experience, and that's pretty much everyone, can be an effective mentor with the right education and training on how to be a mentor. So that is the definition we are using today. And it's amazing how often we hear definitions of coaching and sponsorship when we ask people what they understand mentoring to be. So mentoring in 2021, there was a lot that went on in 2021. In terms of mentoring, the first thing that we saw was actually almost 10% greater number of mentors in terms of mentor to mentee ratio were registering on the platform this year. And when we dug a bit deeper into the reasons why, there were two things really that came out from this. The first one was there was an increasing number of reverse mentoring programs that were happening. And that is where someone who would typically identify as a mentee is putting themselves forward as a mentor and saying, actually, I may have just joined the organization as an apprentice or a graduate, but I think I've got a lot that I can share with a senior leader about challenges I may be facing as someone who's newly joined the business, about diversity and inclusion, or about technological trends and how they're coming forward. So reverse mentoring was one of the reasons we saw more mentors signing up. The other thing we believe to be the reason for this from looking at the stats is that more and more people now are identifying as thought leaders. You only have to log into LinkedIn to look at people sharing their experience and sharing their understanding of an industry or a sector to know that that's the case. And if people are happy to share their knowledge, then that's fantastic. So seeing more mentors joining was one of the big things that we saw this year in terms of the mentor to mentee ratio. And that's a good thing for anyone on the call who's running programs or looking to run a program and may be concerned about not having enough mentors to mentees. The second thing we saw, unsurprisingly, was remote and international mentoring. We saw a lot more remote mentoring this year, the same with last year, but also international mentoring has increased even more than last year. So last year, there were 44% of all mentoring relationships formed on PushFar's open network were international. This year, it's more like 47% at the moment. We're going to do a recap at the end of the year, and we'll look at what that looks like at the end. But we're seeing a massive increase in the number of people finding a mentor or a mentee in a different country to them. And that has lots of additional benefits that you might see coming out of that, such as understanding of different cultures, different ways of working, and also within an organization, understanding what's going on in different departments, different offices, and that opens up additional opportunities for individuals. The third thing, and we actually predicted this earlier in the year, was more just-in-time mentoring. So more kind of bite-sized or one-time mentoring. That has both good and bad connotations to it or impacts from it. The good thing is that people can log on and they can find an individual to give them that instant information, that instant advice and guidance. And in line with what we're looking at in terms of generations, that sort of instant gratification, if you like, from mentoring. The negative, of course, though, is that you're not building as many sort of effective longer-term relationships. And as we all know, networking is vital within an organization, and building rapport with your mentor or mentee can often help to unpick those greater challenges that people might have in the workplace. So one of the features we have within PushFar is the ability to enable or disable one-time mentoring. And that's something that I definitely recommend considering before switching it on, because there are pluses and minuses to that. And I definitely don't think that should replace longer term 6 or 12-month mentoring relationships. So that was mentoring in 2021. That was some of the things we've seen so far. We will probably do a webinar at the beginning of next year looking at trends that we've seen in the last year and summarizing all of those, but those are just 3 to touch on. Moving forward and looking at 2022, there are 3 potential challenges that we have identified that we know HR directors and learning and development managers and people looking at mentoring are considering. The first one is increased recruiting. There are more available positions and roles than ever before. There are more organizations than ever before concerned about how they can retain talent. There is an increase on wages that's happening. There's sort of a wage war in terms of salaries. We're seeing some roles increase by 5, 10, 20% to make sure that people are being retained within organizations. And that has obviously some huge challenges and implications for an organization. The other thing is that Microsoft did a survey earlier this year, and they said, or the stat that came out was that around 40% of people are considering leaving their current organization by the end of this year. Now, how do you combat that? Well, there are lots of different ways that you can combat that, but we think mentoring is a really effective way of doing that. If you think that about 50% of people will leave an organization because of managerial conflict or challenges in terms of management, putting a mentor in place to offset that is a really effective way of doing that, and giving your employees additional support and that additional channel of communication where they can go and talk about their own career development. The other thing is that we're seeing a lot of people job hopping within the first 90 days in a new role. So if people don't like their new job, they will leave, and actually helping them to feel embedded in an organization or culture in terms of helping them to navigate a new company or organization. Looking at buddying mentoring programs and how you can give your newly joining employees a mentor straight away is vital. So we're seeing more and more new joiners mentoring programs popping up. The second challenge potentially is leadership gaps. My colleague Sam raised this point a few days ago. He said, he brought a stat to my attention. I did fact check it, you'll be glad to know. He said that there are about 10,000 baby boomers, 10,000 people of the sort of baby boomer generation retiring in the US every single day. And there are similar proportional stats in the UK. These are individuals who've often been with an organization for 20 or 30 years. We know that the younger generations are moving jobs and roles more quickly. I was guilty of that when I was in my early 20s. We know that more and more people will stay in a role for 1 or 2 years before moving. What that means is those people who've been in management roles, who've developed those leadership skills over time, when they leave, there is potentially a real issue with new managers stepping into to management roles who don't have leadership skills. That is compounded by the fact that we've all been, or most of us have been remotely working for the best part of 2 years. And those people stepping into leadership roles haven't seen leadership happening firsthand from the people they'll be successors to. So mentoring is another big thing that plays into that, making sure that you're succession planning for those new managers to be effective leaders. So just thinking about how that can play into it is really important. The first thing, this is something that's been going on for the last few years, and rightly so, but we've still got a long way to go with it. We only need to look at the fallout of things like the Euros. I must admit, I'm not that much into football, so if I refer to it as the World Cup, I apologise. But obviously, we know that there were issues around systemic racism off the back of that. We know that there are other issues around trans rights, and these are still very much in the forefront of organizations' minds, is making sure that you've got both a diverse workforce, but really importantly, an inclusive workforce where people feel they can bring themselves to work, where people feel empowered to be themselves and to share their experiences with other people and educate other people. And mentoring is really what makes that happen, what can enable that to happen, and those conversations and that education piece to take place. So those are 3 Potential challenges, focuses for organizations in the year ahead, and those are some of the areas in which mentoring plays into that. In terms of launching a new program now, the first thing I want to do is just highlight that success will not happen overnight. We know that mentoring relationships can take 6 to 12 months for benefits to be found. If you're looking at the success of streamlining the process of matching, reducing the number of Excel spreadsheets, increasing the uptake in mentoring participation, then yes, actually PushFar's platform can make success happen overnight. But if you're looking at the longer term objectives of mentoring, whether that's employee engagement, employee retention, diversity and inclusion, anything like that, that's going to take time. It takes time to build up and embed a mentoring culture. And so it may take 12 months for the mentoring benefits to truly be felt across an organization, for objectives to be reached. Sometimes it can take substantially or considerably longer. If you're looking at succession planning for leadership, those individuals that you're preparing to step into management roles may not be in management roles for 2 or 3 years. So it can take time. So that's just something to caveat everything. And I think it's really important to bear in mind when you think that mentoring relationships may well last for 6, 12, maybe 24 months or even longer. The first thing to do when you're launching a program, whether it's the first program you're launching for your organization, or it's a new program as part of an organization where you've already got mentoring programs running, is unsurprisingly looking at how you're going to recruit your mentors and mentees. And there are a number of factors that play into this and a number of considerations that play into this. The first thing is it's really important to talk to key stakeholders and departments. So it may be that you're launching a new mentoring program for your graduate program or your apprenticeship program. It may be you are launching a new program focused on the women's network in your organization or ethnicity networks in your organization. Whoever you're launching a program with, work with those key stakeholders, work with those people who are on the ground on a daily basis, talking to these individuals and these audiences, and talk to them about why it is they want a mentoring program, what it is they're hoping to gain from it. And that will help develop your key messaging, but it'll also help make sure that you're getting the settings right within PushFar's platform to guarantee success. And we'll talk a bit more about the platform, as I say, a bit later on. The final thing, visualizing the perfect potential mentors. You may well be lucky. You might already have fantastic mentors who have already been trained up, who are in your organization, whether that's in a university or a college, or as part of a charity or part of a business. You might already have perfect mentors that you've got on your books. But the key word here is potential mentors. There's often a bit of training that needs to happen in order to encourage and develop your mentors into the perfect mentor. So don't think about people who are right at the moment, but think about potential fantastic mentors who, with a bit of training, could become the right people. Think about that, think about your audience. That then leads on to getting the communication right. When you're conveying anything to a large number of people, you've got to make sure communication is right. This can sometimes be overlooked, and ultimately, if you get this wrong, then your mentoring program is not going to succeed to the same extent. So it's really important to get that communication right. What I mean by that, try and keep comms short if possible. 1 or 2 page emails talking about what mentoring is, how you can get involved, who it's open to, who it's not open to, what makes a good mentor, things like that. They're all great, but they should be covered off in a launch webinar. Your introductory email should be educational, but it should be appealing to the target audience. And most importantly, and the reason I put this in bold, is it should have a very clear action point. It should have a huge, or well, we would say orange button. Unsurprisingly, we've got orange branding, but an orange button or a blue button, whatever branding you've got in your organization, have a big button that says start mentoring or sign up as a mentor or sign up as a mentee. We all get bombarded with hundreds of emails a week. Sometimes that's hundreds of emails a day. Making sure that you've got a really clear action point for your mentors and mentees is vital. And in addition to that, making sure you're sending the emails. These are sort of obvious things, but things that are easily missed. Sending it on the right day. Do not send a launch email on Monday morning at 9 a.m. you are not going to get much engagement unless you are the CEO of the organization sending it. Preferably don't send it on Friday afternoon either. Tuesday, Wednesday or Thursday midday are good times to be looking at launching a program or sending out comms, and actually making sure you're sending more than one communication. You need to remind people, as I said at the beginning, it can take up to 7 times for people to really recognize that. I know I'm not saying send 7 emails, but maybe send 2 or 3 over a 3 or 4 week period of time. The third thing, don't assume people know about mentoring, educate them. As I said earlier, it never ceases to amaze us how, and it's understandable. I'll be honest, I didn't know the difference between mentoring and coaching when I first started looking at mentoring. But we hear people describe mentors as managers, sponsors, buddies. Really educate people on what mentoring is, how you can be an effective mentor. And you can do this by utilizing training workshops. We offer training workshops for our clients. We've run lots of webinars with clients and we're always delighted to do that. So feel free to do contact your account manager on PushFar if you'd like more information on how we can do that. That's no problem at all. We also have lots of guidelines, guidebooks. Utilize those, share those. We also have video resources, but also look at how you can run talks. You may well be able to get your CEO or a senior leader onto something like a webinar or an in-person event, talking about their experiences of mentoring. That can be really powerful and encourage more people to come forward and get involved with mentoring. And the fourth thing, and we're going to talk a bit more about this in a minute, is configuring PushFar's platform for matching success. What I mean is consider the matching rules. We've got custom matching rules. This is a new feature that's been brought in the last month, that you can adapt the matching criteria directly within the admin panel. And I'll show you how you can do that towards the end. But also, who's doing the matching? Is it self-selected or admin-led matching? And again, talking to your key stakeholders who are looking at running these programs is vital for that. And then what are the categories? What options are you giving to mentors and mentees to opt into this as mentors and mentees? What key areas of focus are you putting in place? And are they the right ones that resonate with the audiences you're targeting? At this point, I want to talk about one platform option that we get asked. I would say this is the most common question we're asked when people start looking at PushFar: who's doing the matching? And we have 2 main options within the platform. We've got individuals, where you can self-select matches, and I'd say about 80% of our clients go for this approach, at least with one of their programs or more. And then we have administrators. Now, there are pluses and minuses on both sides. I would say for universities and colleges, it's predominantly administrators doing the matching. There are a couple of reasons for that, which I'll talk in a moment about. And for organizations running mentoring programs for employees, it's probably individuals doing self-selected matching, and that's the same with membership organizations we work with as well. Now, for individuals doing the matching, one of the key benefits is you do get an immediate buy-in from the mentee. The mentee, the person requesting the mentor, feels like they're taking ownership of their learning and development, they're taking ownership of their career progression, and they're actively saying, I would like to request you as a mentor. There is a sense of buy-in straight away when you allow individuals to do that. And we do see higher engagement when that happens. The second thing is choices are usually aligned to needs. So mentees will not always put everything they're looking for from a mentor on their application form. Ideally they do, but understandably sometimes they don't, or sometimes they don't even think about putting something down, but they've got it in the back of their mind that they want a mentor who will help them with certain things they don't want to necessarily disclose to other individuals. So by giving them the control and the choice, that can help them and align to the right mentor match. The third thing with individual self-selecting is actually it enables mentors to have more of a say too. Mentors can go back and accept or decline a request. And if you decline a request, you can give a reason as to why. So for those mentors who might think, actually, I don't think I can help, I don't feel I've got the right level of experience, or I don't feel confident enough to mentor you based on what you're looking for, mentors can say that, and that can stop a misalignment of matches straight away. Fourth thing, the fourth positive of individuals is there's a surprising effect or there can be surprising matches with more to offer. So when we get two people who are from completely different backgrounds, who are in different departments, different countries, allowing them to request a mentor or a mentee, actually then you may see some really surprising matches, but people will learn more from someone who has more to offer from different perspectives and different insights. Those are 4 reasons why individual matching is good, but there are a couple of things that you might want to just make sure you're considering with self-selected matching. There can be a tendency, this doesn't happen a lot, but there can be a tendency or concern around selecting the highest level. So if you're signing up, you might automatically want to go for the CEO if you've joined on the graduate program. PushFar goes a long way to stopping that from happening. We suggest what the system deems to be the 5 best matches for an individual, and we don't look at level or seniority for that. But what you can now do with this additional feature that we've added in is you can set rules around your matching, and you can capture things like level or hierarchy within an organization if you do have a hierarchical structure, and you can match people who are, say, 1 to 2 levels above or 1 to 2 levels below, and that can be done directly within the admin panel now. The other potential is that it can lead to cliques or individuals selecting people who they think they are similar to and identify with, and actually making sure that that doesn't happen is really vital. So just keeping an eye on that and encouraging people to step outside their comfort zone and request someone in a different territory or country or in a different department, that can really help from an inclusion perspective. So that's some of the reasons why you might and might not want to go for individual matching. From an admin perspective, there are pluses and minuses to this as well. The first plus is that you are going to get a 100% match rate. Generally speaking, if you are matching your mentors and mentees together, you can make sure everyone's got a mentoring relationship, provided you've got the right ratio of mentors to mentees, but you can easily reach 100% match rate. Now, that doesn't actually translate to 100% engagement rate. In fact, far from it. So if you're set on just ensuring everyone's got a mentoring match, then that's fantastic. You can do that. But then you need to bear in mind that that won't necessarily guarantee that everyone's going to actually opt into or engage with their mentoring relationships. As an administrator, if you're doing the matching, you can more easily reach organizational objectives. So if you have organizational objectives for your employees, matching them with the right person, aligning to organizational objectives can be easier to do. So knowing what the business needs to get out of mentoring, if you're in charge or in control of those matches, you can ensure that that takes place. The third thing to mention is that admin have a greater understanding of needs sometimes. So in cases, and I mentioned this, in cases of universities or colleges, quite often program managers will have an understanding of what is important when it comes to graduating, entering the jobs market, entering the workplace, and compare individuals up with someone who's appropriate for them at admin level. So admins in certain situations, in certain cases, will have a greater understanding of needs. We also can see this with succession planning, mentoring. So if you do have a senior leadership development plan, then actually that greater understanding of who should be paired with who from an educational standpoint is important. One of the problems of admin matching is there's potential matching bias. That subconscious bias that people refer to, actually as administrators, if you're doing the matching, that could lead to potential unconscious bias when you're pairing two people together. So be mindful of that. The second thing, as is aligned with that first point about the 100% match rate, is you're going to potentially see lower engagement rates. So people match together, might form a mentoring relationship, but never schedule a meeting or schedule 1 or 2 meetings because they haven't had that same buy-in. And finally, mismatches can occur more often. If as an administrator you're doing the matching, individuals may come back and say, actually, I'd like to change because they didn't have that say straight away. So those are some things to bear in mind on both sides. You do have the opportunity when you are running multiple programs to have different settings on different programs. So maybe you've got an overall program, which is where you're enabling individuals to choose matches, but then you have an admin-led graduate program, or an admin-led senior leadership development program where you're best placed to match people together. So you can interchange these in one platform if you're running multiple programs. I'm going to now talk about how you ignite engagement or re-engagement. As I say, the platform goes a long way to trying to encourage mentors and mentees to log in, schedule meetings, set their goals, be proactive. And we have high success rates with that. But there are additional things that we would always encourage organizations to do to just keep mentoring in the forefront of employees' minds. And there are certain times within the year where it's beneficial to do that. The first thing we would recommend is hosting a webinar, or we can do that for you. We do this for lots of our clients. We do this with newly joining clients to your participants, sharing the benefits of mentoring, showing people how they can use the platform to their advantage, and how to be an effective mentor or mentee. And we can do mentor or mentee or joint webinars. Hosting those webinars can really help make the difference between people getting a link, logging in, and not really doing anything, to actually making sure they're using the platform, making sure they've got a good understanding of mentoring, and getting off to the right foot with mentoring. And so think about hosting webinars. What some of our clients do, I can see a couple of clients on the call today, on the webinar today, who are doing this, is bringing in senior leaders or existing mentors and mentees and having them talking about the benefits that they've seen from mentoring or their experiences of mentoring. That can just encourage more people to opt in. The second thing to do is consider gamification. I always say that about 50% of our clients love gamification, and the other 50% are terrified of it. If you're in the slightly more terrified camp, we can have a conversation about how it might be able to help and how we can ensure that it's enabled in the right way. Some organizations are now rewarding mentors and mentees for engagement, whether that's just calling out and saying, fantastically well done to these mentors this month or this year, and looking at rewarding for usage and activity. But even if you're not calling out or rewarding those individuals accordingly, it can act as a real motivator just for those individuals involved. I never ceases to amaze any of us at PushFar how much earning a few points on the platform will encourage further motivation. So if you haven't switched on gamification, consider it. And if you want to find out more information about it, get in touch with your account manager, who can share a bit more about how it all works and the upsides and the downsides to that. The third thing that we would definitely recommend doing is exploring additional mentoring programs. If you've got just one program running, you might want to look at a new joiners program. So combating what we said earlier, that fallout from people who join and then leave an organization within the first 90 days, giving people a mentor and maybe matching them at admin level for the first 90 days can be important, can help people to really feel like they're embedded in an organization. Exploring reverse mentoring programs. Some of our organizations, some of our clients are doing this already with great results. If you've not yet considered reverse mentoring, then do consider it. It can be a great way of empowering those more junior employees or those individuals in certain inclusion groups to feel like they have more of a voice, to feel like they can educate individuals within an organization. And then also look at employee diversity and inclusion programs. So you might want to consider running separate programs in parallel. And running programs in parallel, you can go through that launch process with each of those programs and really help individuals to get involved with mentoring. And you may well find that there are mentors and mentees who are members of multiple programs. So that is absolutely an option you've got too. In terms of igniting engagement, the final thing that we'd highlight, and we've put together some of these recently, is success stories and case studies. These can be internal, so these can be things where you've got, as it says, senior leaders who felt direct benefits of mentoring, either as mentors, mentees, or both, to write an article or share in a bit of an interview how that's helped them. And then you can share that with your employees and encourage them to get involved in mentoring too. And if it's helpful, and we've done this with a few of our clients, we're happy to prepare case studies on your behalf. In fact, we've recently done one with Humberside Police on how their recruitment strategy has involved mentoring from a diversity and inclusion perspective. So we've prepared this for them. They've then gone on to share that with other police forces to talk about how they've made a difference. So we're very happy to put those together on your behalf, and it really can just get people thinking about how they might use or utilize mentoring. I want to talk now about the platform. So I know that a number of you are already using the platform. Some of you have been using it for a long time now. Others have recently been onboarded to it. There are a few features that we've released over the last 6 months that I just want to highlight that some of you may not be aware of or might be aware of, but not necessarily know how to use them. So I'm going to cover off now the practical side of mentoring through the PushFar platform and how you can use that to your advantage with programs for the rest of this year and in 2022. So the first new feature, and this is a big feature that we've been working on for a while now, is custom matching rules. In the past, we've been able to add these in at admin level on our side, but we've now added in the ability for you to directly add custom matching rules within your admin panel. Now, what this means is you can add certain criteria around this, whether that is a hierarchical structure where you're matching people based on level, whether it's a flat structured organization, but you're matching people based on years experience, whether it's potentially matching people based on gender or different departments. Any data that you're capturing, in addition to our default questions, you can add custom matching rules around. So this is really powerful to just furthering that self-selected matching process where you don't necessarily need to do the matching to the same extent. And I'll talk about each of these and how you can do that in a second. I'll show you some screenshots of where you can find these features. The second one is advanced search filtering. So you can adapt the search filters that your mentors and mentees are able to use when finding other mentors and mentees. So if you've got a larger organization structure and you want people to be able to search for other mentors and mentees by things like department or job function, for example, or gender potentially, you can make any of these fields searchable fields. And what you can also do is you can include hidden fields that are coming through from single sign-on. So if you have things like job level within single sign-on, but you don't necessarily want your employees to see that, that can be pulled through in a hidden field, and you can then still add custom matching rules around it without employees being aware to the same extent that that's being pulled through as data. The third thing, this is a relatively recent feature, but built-in video calling. At the moment, this is supported on Chrome, and later in the year, we're looking at rolling this out to additional browsers as well. But built-in video calling means that you can schedule and set up and host a meeting directly within PushFar without needing to use something like Zoom or Teams. Be mindful that we have had some instances where this has been blocked by internal firewalls and networks, particularly with clients in the financial services sector. So just make sure that you're testing it before encouraging employees to use it. And obviously, if it is blocked internally, you can switch that off or speak to IT about how they can unblock it. I know that people or certain organizations are very strict and won't even enable things like Zoom to be able to be used. So just bear that in mind. But built-in video calling, and we're adding additional browser support later this year to make it even easier. And when you do have a call with your mentor or mentee, it happens in the browser, and you can also see your goals on the right-hand side as well, or your mentee's goals if you're the mentor, and you can work on adding them in whilst you're in the call. So check that out if you haven't yet done so. And a final thing, we've got full Microsoft Teams integration directly through the admin panel now too. So if all of your employees are using Outlook and Microsoft Teams, you can plug in with that, and PushFar will automatically generate a Teams link when you're scheduling a meeting through the platform. It just gives organizations full visibility of what's going on, as well as obviously sending the Outlook invitations through. It will embed and include a Teams link straight away. Those are some of the key features. It's worth highlighting that at any point in the admin panel, you can go to our new features page and you can see a release log of all the new features that we're rolling out. And if you do have any other features that you would like us to include, then please do, again, get in touch with me directly or one of your account managers, and we can make sure that's added into the roadmap. So the feature I want to show you how the feature works first is custom matching rules. And this can be found by going into mentoring and mentoring groups. And this can either be found by adding a new mentoring group or editing an existing group. So if we scroll down here, you'll see this new orange box. Now, if this orange box is not appearing, that is because you haven't added any custom fields in, you're just capturing the default data. But if you do have custom fields, you're going to see this orange box. And you've got 3 fields here. You've got select a custom field, a rule type, and then who that rule applies to. So an example of this would be selecting a custom field, department. That rule type is a custom matching rule, and it's applying both to mentors and mentees. I'm not suggesting you necessarily want to do this, but this is an example. If someone signs up and says that their department is equal to human resources, then it's going to show matches equal to people in IT and marketing. And we can add that rule in, and you can layer rules over the top as well. So it's a really powerful way of adding in additional criteria that you might have for employees within an organization. The second feature that I want to highlight is under branding and platform settings, and that's registration data capture. So that's that middle field there. And if we open this up, we can see we've got the ability to add in a new field. We can also choose the field type. So it can be an open text field, it can be a drop down, and we've got then 3 options. Is it a searchable field to employees? So do you want people to be able to filter other mentors and mentees by that? Is it searchable by admins? In almost all cases, I would imagine you would want that to be yes as well, but there is an option there. And then the third one is it a hidden field? So open text fields can be hidden fields where you're passing through data from single sign-on. We can then add additional rules to. Again, if you have any questions on any of these features, feel free to contact us directly, contact your account manager, and we can go through these and talk about how they may be more relevant to your specific instance and your specific programs. The third and final feature that I just want to highlight within this is that calendar integration piece. And you'll notice that this is under configuration on the left-hand side, and you've got then calendar integration. You've got 2 options. You've got Google Calendars or Outlook Calendars. If you haven't yet enabled this and you're able to, if your IT team have given you the green light to do this, they can log in and set this up. It takes 10 or 15 minutes to do, and it will actually suggest meeting times where both parties are available within someone's calendar, and on the Outlook calendars, it can also set up a Teams link as well. This is only really applicable to organizations where everyone's on the same calendar system. PushFar will, regardless of which calendar system you're on, send a calendar invitation out via Outlook, Google, and iCal calendars anyway, so it does make it easy to add them in. This is just an additional level of integration, which makes it even more seamless. I said I would give 15 minutes at the end for a Q&A. We've got 16 minutes, so how about that? So I'd love to hear any questions that anyone might have. I'm just going to bring up the final slide as well. So if you are interested in finding out anything more about PushFar and what we do, then get in touch with us. Email info@pushfar.com or email me directly, ed@pushfar.com, to do so.